And welcome to a brand new edition of Match Points here on TennisMajors.com, where we come to debate and discuss the biggest topics in tennis. And since today is all about team tennis, let's say hello once again to our team. First, there she is, the tennis author and writer, Carol Bouchard. There she is, tennis player, tennis journalist, full-time mother, and of course, 2013 Wimbledon champion, Marion Bartoli. And there he is once again, tennis writer, journalist, president, Writers Association, so make sure you stay on his good side, Simon Cambers. All right, team, let's get at it since we are talking team, and let's begin with the Laver Cup. How close are we, and how far are we from Laver Cup being a real competition? Let's begin with you, Simon.
Nice of you to come to me first. A long way for me. Now, I want to sort of coverage this by saying, if you compare it to, for example, the Ryder Cup, when the Ryder Cup began, many, many years ago, a lot of people didn't give it that much of a chance of being a success, but it became one eventually. It took a long, long time. But I think the Laver Cup's a nice idea. It's great to honour Rod Laver, who was one of the, the kings of tennis. But I just think until it means something, for me, it's just very hard to get behind. It's too opaque in how you qualify. Does it really matter whether Europe wins or rest of the world? The great thing about the Ryder Cup, for example, as a comparison, is that Europe and America love to hate each other. It's a bit of fun. It's a bit of fun, and it adds to everything. But Europe and the rest of the world don't hate each other at all. They're all friends. And so there's none of that sort of competition that you want to get, that argy-bargy that really gives it the edge. Yes, you've got McEnroe as a captain, but Bjorn Borg's so nice that there's never going to be any clashing, and they're great friends anyway, McEnroe and Borg. So there are so many things going on with it. It's in a crowded calendar where they've sort of shoved this in to sort of say well done to Rod Laver for being a great legend of the game. It was a nice idea. I just think there are so many reasons why it needs to change, adapt, or really sort of, I don't know, there needs to be a real streamlining of all the competitions. And the Laver Cup at the moment feels to me like the odd one out in that no one really, if you lose a match in Laver Cup, I almost said Ryder Cup, if you lose a match in Laver Cup, it doesn't matter, does it? It's not going to end your year. No one is building their year around it. So for me, until it really has a meaning, there are no ranking points, until it really means something to players, I don't think it's gonna make it.
Marion, agree or disagree with Simon?
Sort of halfway. I agree on the fact that he needs some improvements. For sure, it needs to be more tied up in terms of rules, especially this year. I think this year was a little bit, the toughest one because Europe won so easily. So, of course, everyone is starting to bash the Laver Cup, saying, well, there is not really a competition because Europe was almost winning from 13 points ahead. So it's not really like it's a competition. But the other years, in the previous year, it was down to one single match at the end. And I think Zverev won it the year before. You could see how much Roger was throwing himself right in there. Then you had those great doubles, having Roger and Rafa pairing or Roger and Novak pairing. And it was just really a good fun. The problem is this year, the rest of the world team was not, in terms of competition, at the same level as Europe. So you can see the massive difference, and therefore everyone is starting to, say that the Laver Cup is not a true competition. I think it was just a matter of this year. But I would love to see, as Simon said, a little bit more clarity into who is playing, why they are playing, what are the rules behind the qualification of the players. And I get what they want to do. They want to bring back, what happened in tennis before. They want to bring back the history. They want to give some credit to Rod Laver, of course, but not only. I think to John McEnroe and Bjorn Borg rivalry. I think it's great for the young people to see those players back into the game in some sort of form. But it needs to be slightly more tied up, that's for sure. But I think he will become an event like everyone wants to see because I see tennis events year long, and I'm always very happy to watch the Laver Cup. I think it's always fun and entertaining. It's just a matter of the players and the competition and how tight it gets. And unfortunately, when it's so, the gap is so huge between two teams, then you lose that, little spice between who is going to win and when's going to win. Of course, Nick Kyrgios was playing a huge part in that because he was pushing Roger to the limit. He was winning a lot of points for his team, and then everything was all tied up. This year was not the case for him. So it comes down to also, how much the players put an effort into what they were doing. And I think it was clear that really Europe wanted to win it as they were doing the other years. I think for the rest of the world, because Roger was not playing, maybe for the young kids, they didn't have, that fire to play against the GOAT or who they consider to be the GOAT. And to bring more tennis onto the table. But I still believe it's a great event and it should remain in the calendar.
All right, Carol, where were Simon and Marion right? And where were Simon and Marion wrong?
Well, I kind of agree with both, so it's an easy situation for me right now. No, I think it lacks stakes. I mean, when you go into a Grand Slam or a Masters 1000, you know what's at stakes, you know what's riding on it. You have the pressure, you have the suspense, and it lacks stakes because you don't have points. I mean, there's no point, so it doesn't have an influence on the ranking. Like, if you would play the number one spot on the week of Laver Cup, you would see competition. And I think it depends also, as Marion said, it depends on the casting. I mean, they need the top players to commit. They won't get out of it as a fantastic competition if they can't get the top 10 or top 20 players to all commit to that event. But for them to commit, at some point, the money is not going to be enough. You're going to need the points. I think I agree with Marion that the show can be good, and I understand where they're coming from, what they want to do. But the issue is that, as Simon said, the schedule is so packed that you can't add one event just to add one event. It has to have a meaning and they have to fully commit to it. So honestly, as long as there's no points in it, or maybe as long as they don't find a reason to win it, why do they want to win it? I mean, when some player is going to tell me one of my goals this year is to win the Laver Cup, I'm like, wow, okay, they won. But maybe it's going to take, I don't know, maybe it's going to take a decade. Maybe the idea they had at the start, if I'm not mistaken, it was to be played once every 2 years. So I think maybe if you build up the suspense around it, maybe it's too often once a year, but they need to maybe rethink the format or rethink the way they're qualifying the players to it, because I mean, I understand Nick Kyrgios is a fantastic player for the crowd, but if he doesn't qualify for his ranking, what is he doing here? And how you justify his presence? So I would say they have a spot in the ATP calendar, so it should come now with points. If not, it's going to be complicated.
Yeah, I don't think that the Laver Cup purpose at the beginning was to be, proper in a way ATP event. I don't think it was the meaning of it. I think the meaning of it was to have a tennis showdown, basically. And I think in the idea of bring back, the true legends of the game, you should bring back Pete Sampras and Andre Agassi into some sort of, adding to the team and maybe play some doubles with one legend from the rest of the world, but most of them are coming from the US, and then you play it with a current player. I remember when in Indian Wells, you had the doubles between Rafa and Andre against Pete and Roger, and it was absolutely packed. I mean, there was not one seat available, and you can, everyone was counting never Grand Slam on the court. And I think it's more the purpose of that tournament is to be a tennis showdown and to bring some sort of spice and competition around it as much as possible. But I don't think the meaning of it is to be a pure ATP event with points and, just being a regular week, basically. I think the players want to have a break from having a regular week as well. I mean, when you're playing on the tour week in and week out, year in and year out, it's just constantly the same. And for them to have a little break when it comes down and to have something different, they have fun with their friends, they're pairing as a whole team. Team Europe is not so usual that you play for your, as a team, as everyone is so competitive when they play against each other. For once, they're competing for the same trophy. I think it should be more around the ideas of bringing other extra legends from the US, because they will be adding a lot more to the rest of the world team, because right now the Europe presence is so massive that I don't think it needs massively another adding, but more in the rest of the world, which will come from the US. And I think that should be the idea they should have for the next edition, whether it's next year or a year after that.
Then it's an exhibition. That's the thing. And I was all fine with them saying we're an exhibition, we're going to put on a show, it's going to be amazing. But from the moment they're saying, no, we don't want to be an exhibition, we're the real thing, that's when it's getting complicated. I fully agree with Marion. If they go this way, they're going to be full. It's going to be packed every year or every 2 years, no problem at all.
Yeah, I think the problem is that, inside, those people watching it inside the stadium are clearly loving it. but I would love to see the viewing figures on TV, because I just don't think the world at large gets it yet. I think they need to expand it to sort of, almost like a Ryder Cup, 12 aside, 10 aside, something like that. And I tell you, if you want a bit of spice in it, get Jimmy Connors to captain the rest of the world team. That's how you do it.
All right, let's move on now to the second question. We'll stay in the same area, of course, but here's ideas. What should they change to increase the competitiveness? What should they change to actually increase the competitiveness? And Carol, why don't you start for us?
Honestly, if you want to increase competitiveness among players who are, like Marion said, every week they fight for points and titles. I mean, if you don't add points, you won't add any competitiveness because the pressure is not the same. We see that with the ATP Cup. They all want to win this because you have, 250 points or something. And you need the top players to commit. So I don't know. Honestly, I have no idea how you can increase this without putting more money and points. I don't know.
I have been a player before, long time ago. I give you that, but I've been
Not
a player
that long
before.
ago.
A long time ago. But I think one thing that really motivated the players is to show the legends how good they can play. And especially for the young kids. I mean, you can see for the rest of the world, they're also young with Shapovalov, Auger-Aliassime, and all of them. If you're pairing them, let's say with Ivan Lendl on one side, we say that before he was playing for Republic Czech and not for the US, and then you put on the other side Jimmy Connors playing with Shapovalov, I can ensure you that Shapovalov is going to give 110%, even maybe more than playing a semi-final of Wimbledon, because he wants to show to a true legend of the game how good he can be. And that was the purpose, I think, of having Johnny Mack and Björn Borg on the chair as well, is to bring that sort of legend eye to supervise the sort of young troops, and they were really motivated, as well as when you had a kid playing for Europe and you had Roger coming in the changeover giving him a tip. The kid really wanted to win for Roger, and I think it's another way to go around the points and the prize money, because at the end of the day, you can't be a Masters 1000, you can't give 1000 points for the winners, and for players who are in the top 10, if you win less than 500 points, it doesn't even count in their ranking system. The way the ranking is built, when you add the Grand Slam and the Masters 1000, you have only 4 or 5 tournaments to add up to that. That means if you don't win 500 plus points, they're not even counting in your ranking system. So I don't think the ranking system is the way forward. I think the way forward is to bring more legends of the game, and all the players will want to play well in front of them. I remember when I played an exhibition match in front of Billie Jean King, and I played with Venus Williams. I was more scared to miss a serve or to miss a volley than when I played a Wimbledon final, because you play for those legends. You want to hear from them that they consider you as a good player. And for me, it's only my humble point of view, but I think it's the way forward for the Laver Cup.
One way you could do it is that at the moment the format of the competition is such that it is all aimed to build up to a crescendo, of course, which is great. But one team will always win depending on what happens in the last match. If you build it to a situation where it could be a tie, which I know will sound nuts for Americans, but then you let the captains play off for it or something like that. You add a little bit of added interest. So to see McEnroe and Borg playing each other, getting out there to see who wins it, I think would be fantastic. Also, you could even do, anyone who's played a lot of tennis over the years, right from when they're young, will have played some form of handicap level tennis where you start with a couple of points down. So let's say Novak is the number 1 and he plays against the number 16 there. Maybe he starts a few points down and there's a bit of jeopardy there, something to add to it. I know it sounds like that will make it more of an exhibition, but I think I think Marion's right with the ranking points. If we did what we wanted to and made it maybe every 2 years or every, not every year, then you can't have ranking points because that's not fair, is it? You can't give it a Masters thousands points because there aren't enough players who can play it. It's not democratic enough. So you can keep it fun, you can make it interesting, you make players want to play, but you make it a little bit more competitive by bringing it to an end where McEnroe and Borg could play each other. And I would turn the TV on to watch that.
All right, let's move on now to question number 3. If you had the power to reshape the calendar, and the current situation of team competition, what would you do for the men, for the women, and for the mixed competitions? Let us begin with you, Marion Bartoli.
There is definitely too much competition. That is, I think everyone would agree on that. Now, who you put when, that is the whole thing, because you just don't want to feel like one competition has sort of a lower grade compared to the other one. So you try to be fair with everybody. But it has to be, for me, a rotational part. So let's say if year one, the Hopman Cup still want to operate, it's a great event, it can be a good preparation before the Australian Open, I get it, then the ATP Cup can't operate at the same time. Because then there is the rest of the Australian Open swing with the tournament in Brisbane and whatever, that still needs to have some sort of field from players to play before the Australian Open in order for the sponsor to keep sponsoring those kind of events. So I think you need to have one team event before a Grand Slam. Year one could be the Hopman Cup, year two it could be the ATP Cup, and then you switch around. That is the problem of the Davis, well, what we call still the Davis Cup, and the Billie Jean King Cup. And that's, once again, that's just too much in a year. I mean, the players are exhausted. A lot of them are not playing this year, the Billie Jean King Cup, because the year-end championship is happening in Mexico. And therefore, they just don't want to fly back to Prague before going to fly in again in Mexico. So you're missing the top 8 players. So that is a huge issue, massive issue. So you have to connect yourself. If you're standing at the end of the year calendar, you have to connect yourself with the year-end championship, because you want to have the top 8 players playing the team competition. So either you're playing, in the same location or very close location, and therefore it's possible and it's doable to do it with a travel, or at least you're putting yourself every 2 years, and you still, when you're playing and putting yourself in your calendar, next in the same region, same location as the Masters Year's End Championship. Otherwise, it just doesn't make sense, and you're missing the top players, which is not the purpose of this competition. So I would say at least 1 year, one every 2 years, and then have a switch around and rotation for everything that is happening before the Australian Open, because otherwise the regular ATP events and WTA events will massively suffer from lack of field.
All right, same question for you, Simon. You have the power we're giving you to reshape the calendar and the current situation of the team competitions. So what are you doing for the men, for the women, and for mixed competition?
Oh, the power! It's so tempting. I would get rid of the ATP Cup for a start. I just think it's a waste of time. Seriously, I think it's a waste of time. It's been sort of shoved in at the start of the year. It sounds like a good idea, but again, I don't think anyone cares about it that much. Don't think players are going to build their year around it. And if you're going to have a team event, I want people to really, really want to play. And you can't have a tournament. Certainly, you can't have the ATP Cup at the beginning of the year and expect everyone to be peaking for that, because they're peaking for the Grand Slam. So I like the idea of bringing back the Hopman Cup, which everyone loved. It was a very successful event, mixed, which is what we need to do more of in tennis. So start the year with that. I think the ATP Cup can go. I think Davis Cup. Now, it's really difficult with the Davis Cup because I loved, growing up, I loved the Davis Cup. I loved watching it. It was really exciting when it came on TV. Part of that is because we didn't have much tennis on television, so you only saw the final. But you read about the home and away ties. I was reading the other day about Pat Cash playing Brad Gilbert in 1986, a bit of argy-bargy between them. The home and away format for me was something that was always really important. And also Davis Cup is quite a democratic thing in the sense that for a lot of the poorer nations, that's where they get a lot of money. They get, they sell out a tie, they get investment for it. So it's really difficult. I didn't like the way it was reimagined a couple of years ago, where now we have, I think, 18 nations at the end of the year altogether. I know it all makes sense to be in the same place, and I can see that. For me, Davis Cup should be every 2 or maybe 4 years. I think you could, if you made it every 4 years in the sort of 2 years either side of the Olympics, then you have something that players would really, really put their noses out to get to. I think with the regional nations, because you're only going to have a certain number of nations in the main world group, I think you can have them going along year on year, year in, year out, or maybe every 2 years to build to that 4-year event. And maybe you make it over 2 weeks and you make it in one place and you make it really exciting, that final set of finals. Billie Jean King Cup, I think, suffers a little bit unnecessarily because Fed Cup was always an excellent event. I'm sure Marion would say so because France had a great record in it, but it was only certain number of nations.
Especially because I played so many times.
Yeah. Exactly, but look at the Czechs. Look at the Czechs in recent years.
I was really the Peter of that team. Jesus Christ!
But There were but there were certain players who would have played it and who really made it a very important part of their calendar. But I think there is a case to be made for making that mixed or played in the same venue if it was at the finals at the end of a year over every 4 years. But my main point is that you really want players to want to peak for it and it to mean something hugely for their career, to win Davis Cup. Like, until it changed, for the nations who hadn't won it, it was huge, wasn't it? For Switzerland, when Federer and Wawrinka won, when Murray won it for Britain, it was massive. In Fed Cup, the same sort of thing. Nations that had not done so well before suddenly coming through and winning, it was massive. And you want to see that. It's just difficult in this day and age where you've got that crowded calendar. So get rid of the ATP Cup, move Davis Cup to every 4 years, and the Billie Jean King Cup, celebrate it in a better way by putting it in the same place as the Davis Cup and making it one massive showdown.
Marian, you wanted to challenge early on, around the time that he said eliminate ATP Cup. Go right ahead.
It was just one thing that Simon mentioned, saying that the players didn't really care about the ATP Cup. Do you remember how much Djokovic was on fire to play against Spain and Rafa to beat him, and all the Serbian flag fully packed? I don't even remember the city it was. I think it was Sydney. I'm not quite sure because I play in different city. But it was absolutely, the amount of stress and adrenaline, and you can see how much it meant to Novak Djokovic to beat Rafa and to win that tie for Serbia. It was absolutely extraordinary. As much as probably, you can't put it to the same level as the final for Grand Slam, but really quite up there.
I would say in response to that, I'm sure that's true, and Novak definitely was really fired up for it. But it was almost by circumstance rather than by design. It was luck in some ways that came together. Novak didn't necessarily aim to try to peak for that event. He obviously had the Australian Open coming up a couple of weeks later. So I think you just need, if you're going to have the ATP Cup, it needs a better place in the calendar. It needs to be on its own.
Every player will pick when they play for their countries. When you have the name of your country in your back, you pick for it. It's just a matter of respect, and we all want to win for our country. It's just a matter of the idea of competition is becoming too much, but I don't think it's a good idea to get rid of it. The placement, and to get it, as you say, probably every 2 years, every 3 years, even every 4 years. But it's hard for me to see it going outside of the calendar.
All right, we're going to give Carol a chance to answer the whole question and then to tell us who you agree with between Simon and Marian. We'll put you in that spot again. Who's right between the two of them? And you get to answer the question as you so choose.
Actually, I'm surprised because when they first announced the ATP Cup, I was like, oh my God, what are they doing? It's going to be a drain. And honestly, I quite liked it. It's a good warm-up also for the Australian Open. And I found the level of the guys was really, really high, and they seemed to commit. And that's why I think if I had the all powers of tennis god or whatever, I'd be the great merger. Like, I'd merge the ATP Cup and the Davis Cup. We don't need two-man competition. Make it a World Cup. Join the forces of the ITF and the ATP, and you have a stellar event. Every year, every 2 years, you can even put it where you want in the calendar. It doesn't matter. So I'd merge this, so you get not rid of one, but you have so much, money and experience around the table. Like, please, people, just work together. So I'd do that, and end of season maybe, and you have the top female players, the top male players, a big arena, you do it, I don't know, on an NBA arena or whatever, and you have a show with the best stars in the world, men and women. And so at the start of the season, maybe you have the Men World Cup or something, and at the end you have this mixed World Cup. I know, but what about having a women-only competition? I understand. If we had another spot in the calendar, that would be the argument to get the Fed Cup again. I know Davis Cup has also the mission to fund countries that need the money for tennis. But I remember talking to Marin Cilic after they'd won Davis Cup, and they were so happy winning, and it meant an amount of things for the country. Yet their national tennis center was going to close because they didn't have the money. I'm not sure how much Davis Cup nowadays is creating vocations and is helping to grow tennis. So why not trying to merge it? And you can't go back to the old format because it's too much. It's like 4 ties per season. I remember 1 year Djokovic had to, he won Wimbledon or played final and had to go to Argentina on clay the next week. It makes no sense. We can't go back to this. So I think they need to get together and find a solution. But I would love love to see I love the Hopman Cup. I went twice and the atmosphere there is amazing. I remember Kerber playing with Zverev, and I'm telling you, the boss was Angie, and she bossed him all week long, and it was amazing to see. So you win something, and the crowd was fantastic. So I definitely merged for sure Davis Cup and ATP Cup, and I tried to merge Hopman Cup and Laver Cup, and then we have to discuss about the Billie Jean Cup. But I mean, tough choices would be. I wouldn't be the most liked person in the world because I would get rid of the Davis Cup, but I would own that.
Also, the Billie Jean King Cup should be called the King Cup. I mean, that's such a much better name, isn't it? We know it's Billie Jean King. Everyone loves Billie Jean King, but the King Cup, that'd be awesome.
All right, let's move on to question number 4. And I'm going to turn this into a fill in the blank. So it'll be an open-ended statement that you guys can finish however you so choose, okay? So here's the question. Players receiving appearance fees to play for their countries is blank. Players receiving appearance fees to play for their country is blank. I see Marian's thinking right now. Her nonverbals say, quick, think of something. So we won't go to you first, clearly. Yes, Carol, go ahead. Players receiving appearance fee to play for their country is blank.
Absolutely normal. I mean, we don't question when the football players are gaining. I don't question when the football players are gaining money for their play for their country. I remember Goffin playing this amazing season with Belgium, and when you could compare what he earned to what the French players won, and it was ridiculous. I mean, they are making sacrifices in the schedule to play those ties. It's a professional sport. They can risk injury or whatever. I think it's normal for them to get money.
You're not getting money to play. You're getting some money based on the TV rights, the amount of minutes you're spending on the court, and the amount of tickets that are sold during that weekend. That's how you get paid. It's not an appearance fee. I mean, if you're not if the captain doesn't want you to play, you get zero. It's not an appearance fee. It's an appearance fee. It's a complicated calculation and whatever. I just don't want to get into this, but it's not like someone calls you and say, hey, you know what? If you want to play Fed Cup, we're going to give you upfront 100K. And then if you win, then you get some bonuses. It doesn't work like this. You get zero. Then if you spend some time on the court, you're winning some money. If you win, then you get extra points or extra bonus. Then, depending on how many people are coming to the stadium, blah, blah, blah. I mean, it's a whole calculation. And then you get the money at the end of the season when it was 3 ties. And then now it's probably just after that week because it's becoming 1 tie. But it's not like an appearance fee. You can't call it that way.
So, Marian, go ahead then real quick and fill in the blank. Players receiving appearance fees to play for their country is blank. Go ahead.
It's not an option. It's not an option. You shouldn't get paid to play for your country. Then if you play well and you happen to win some matches and you win for your country, and then you get a sort of a reward as a bonus. But you shouldn't get paid to come and show up. Absolutely not. I don't agree on this.
All right, Simon, fill in the blank. Players receiving appearance fees to play for their country is...
I'll stick with it's wrong. It's simply wrong. It's insane. I think you want players to play for their country because they want to play for their country to win something or to achieve something. As Marian says, if there's prize money for winning a title, for winning the Davis Cup, for example, then that's fine. But there should not be like a match fee, for example, for players. I mean, you get that at lower levels on the tour where teams are trying to beat each other in league competitions, but it just shouldn't be necessary. There should be enough money in the game for that not to be the point. And that's a wider discussion, of course, because, if there was enough prize money to spread down through all the rankings, then that would be perfect. But it's not perfect. I know that. I don't like appearance fees, full stop, to be honest, in tournaments. This is something we can discuss another time, perhaps. But I just
Simon, you're so naive. Oh my God. Oh my
Marian,
God.
give me a chance. Give me a chance to say. But this is the whole point. I'm not naive. I know these things happen. I know why it happens. I would like tennis to be in a position where it doesn't need to happen, where tennis players get paid enough in every tournament they play in that they don't need to do it. They can go and play an exhibition, earn your money that way if you want to earn more on top of it. But to actually earn appearance money for playing in a regular tournament, just because you add to what the tournament can offer, I think is wrong, because we've seen thousands of times over the years players enter a tournament, they sell tickets on their name and they pull out. and it's totally wrong, and they don't get the money back that they spent, and they end up, making the tournament completely lopsided by funding everything into getting Nadal or Federer or whoever. And it's not good. It's not democratic for tennis. So I would love appearance fees to disappear, as naive as that sounds. But in terms of playing for your country, it's just wrong.
If we go back to my merging idea, and I don't know, you merge ATP Cup and Davis Cup, and you merge a King Cup with a WTA Cup that you would create, you also get rid of this issue, because you create a competition where it's normal to either get bigger prize money, so you don't need the appearance fees, or you decide that each time they play a match, they still get some money. So I wouldn't be shocked. Honestly, I wouldn't be shocked by it, because, as you said, if it was an ideal world and they were all, top 200 players were earning a nice amount of money through their whole career, it would be fine. But, it's not the case. And when you sacrifice, a week because you have to come early to play those ties, I would feel honestly bad to know that they're playing that for free.
Thanks again, once again, to our team, Carol, Murray, and Simon. Everyone, please do follow on all social media platforms. Check out all the new content that's available as well on the site, of course. We will see you next time for more match points right here on tennismajors.com.